Welcome to the Nevada Trucking Association podcast. I am Paul Enos, CEO of the Nevada Trucking Association. Once again, we are doing these podcasts for you, our members, to get pertinent information out in a way where you don't have to go to a meeting. You can sit at your desk. You can pull it up on your phone. You can listen to it if you're a driver out there on the road and hear what's happening in the trucking industry. So once again, we talk about a myriad of issues: politics, economics, the trucking industry. We're going to be having some discussions on hours of service flexibility coming up in the next few podcasts, on elections, on all those things that are going to have an impact on drivers, on business, and on the economy as a whole. And today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite organizations related to the trucking industry. That is an organization that makes me tremendously smarter, a lot smarter than I really am. I use a lot of information from ATRI. That is the American Transportation Research Institute. Let me go back. There's their, well, I kind of screwed that up, but that's all right. There's their logo. And today I want to talk about one of the studies that ATRI does that really drills into what those costs are for trucking companies, and that is ATRI's analysis of operational costs of trucking. This is from 2017, and they take a look, surveys from trucking companies located all over the country on what those costs are, how they factor into somebody's operation as a business. Now, you can see in 2017, when you look at those costs based on the vehicle, 21% of the share of the average cost per mile are related to the vehicle. Fuel costs, fuel costs 21%. Truck and trailer purchase 12%. Repair and maintenance 19%. Then you get down to the driver costs, and driver wages, driver benefits. So all goes down to that bottom line number. On average, throughout the country, last year, the cost to a trucking company to operate a mile was $1.63. Now, that is a national average. And when you take a look at cost per mile in 2016, it was almost $1.60. And out here in the Golden West, a little bit more expensive. We all know fuel is a lot more expensive on the coast, definitely here in the Silver State, especially in Washoe County where we're filming from. $1.70 was that cost in 2016. Now, if you want to do this survey, we would really appreciate you logging on to atrionline.org, and you can see they've got their operational costs of a trucking survey button right there. So you just pull that up, you click on it, and one of the beautiful things is if you participate in this research, you get it for free. So you can get this study. It is a great tool, and I am very blessed today to have one of my good friends and mentors, somebody who does make me a lot smarter. Let's get this up on our Skype here. I lost my mouse. Here we go. Maybe, Paul? All right, here we go. We're gonna bring you up to the full screen. My good friend, mentor, somebody who I have a tremendous amount of trust in, and that is Rebecca Brewster. Rebecca is the COO of the American Transportation Research Institute. She is joining us today from the Peach State, home of the worst bottleneck in the country for freight, that is Atlanta, Georgia. Rebecca, welcome onto our show. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Paul, for inviting me on today. I love to talk about ATRI's research, and I so appreciate that you are such a big fan of ATRI's research, but actually you utilize ATRI's research in so much of what you do, and I am so thankful for this opportunity to talk about one of our most requested studies, and that's our operational costs of trucking.
So let's talk about what you look at, how you go out to carriers, how you gather that information, and then how you put it together.
So this is an annual data collection for us. We started back in 2008, and originally we thought the ops cost would be a one-time research initiative where we would collect detailed financial data from motor carriers on everything, as you discussed, from fuel costs to driver wages and benefits to equipment lease and rental to repair and maintenance. And we'd aggregate and analyze that data and publish an average cost per hour and a cost per mile to operate a large commercial vehicle. There was such high demand for that study that carriers said it's a great benchmarking tool. we'd love to see sort of a timeline of how these costs are changing. And so we've been doing it ever since 2008. And so in this latest data collection, we're asking for full year 2017 costs that will be published in the 18 report. And the data collection form is very specific. It's fairly easy to figure out what we're looking for from that form, but it's everything from your IFTA miles for the year, your fleet makeup, your trailer makeup, the sector you operate in, and then those per mile costs that you experienced during 2017.
Now, I know a lot of folks get concerned whenever they're giving financial information out about making sure that there is some kind of confidentiality. So this is something that is kept confidential, right? You're not turning this over to the IRS.
Absolutely. As with all of ATRI's research, when you submit data to ATRI for our studies, it stays just within ATRI. We never attribute anything in our reports to any one carrier or any one individual. And for this, because this is such sensitive information, for instance, a lot of people are very concerned about their driver wage information right now, that they don't want their competitors to know what they're paying their drivers per mile. But we're very happy to sign a non-disclosure agreement with any fleet that wants to provide data. And the other thing I'd like to point out, Paul, because it's so important, this is an activity for owner-operators. This is an activity for 20 truck operators. This is an activity for fleets with 500 trucks, and an activity for 1,000-plus truck fleets. We really do look for and receive data from fleets of all sizes and all sectors.
Well, and I really appreciate it because it gives me, an opportunity to just do some kind of quick back of the napkin math, in terms of what is a road closure gonna do? If you add on 4 hours to a trip, what does that mean to your average trucking company that is operating in the state of Nevada? And I know ATRI has been absolutely phenomenal. When we had a flood occur on I-15 in 2014 to show what those costs were to the trucking industry. When we had Donner Summit closed it seemed like all of last winter. I think it was closed for 23 days. Being able to take some of those numbers and just doing some quick back of the napkin math and say, this road closure or this detour means X to the trucking industry, and having that ATRI data to me is absolutely essential to be able to make those quick calls, and you guys do a phenomenal job. Rebecca, besides the operational cost study, let's talk about some of the other ATRI research that you guys are doing. I know I have been a member of the ATRI Research Advisory Committee for 4 years. I'm going off now. That's one of the things that pains me the most. One of my favorite things I've ever done in this job was working with you and working with the other folks on the Research Advisory Committee, coming up with some of these projects. So what are some of the studies that you've done in the past for our folks, our viewers, listeners out there, and what are some of the things you're looking forward to this next year?
Well, some of the work we've done in the past that I think really made a mark for ATRI, for instance, we were one of the first research organizations to identify real statistical challenges with FMCSA's Compliance, Safety, and Accountability, or CSA program, and the underlying calculations that associated crash risk and safety performance with your scores or your basics in the CSA program. So Congress paid attention to that as part of its FAST Act requirements, that FMCSA go back and revisit those underlying algorithms for the CSA basics. We did a lot of work on hours of service and really quantifying how damaging the more restrictive 34-hour restart provisions were for the trucking industry. One of the studies that we're getting ready to release very soon is an update to our crash predictor model, which statistically relates specific driver behaviors to future crash involvement. So a real valuable tool for your motor carrier members as they look at their drivers' MVR data, as they look to hire new drivers, and as they look at their own individual training activities to see which are the types of things we need to make sure their drivers don't get involved in because they are so predictive of future crash involvement.
So, Rebecca, one thing I think a lot of folks don't understand about ATRI, it isn't just the big trucking companies that are involved, or even the trade associations. You've got a myriad of different groups that are part of ATRI, part of this research advisory committee. Just want to talk about some of the composition and how that does impact the research that you do.
Absolutely, and I really think, Paul, that's one of the strengths of ATRI, is the very diverse group of trucking industry stakeholders that make up our research advisory committee, of which you're a member. We have motor carriers, we have trucking industry suppliers, we have driver groups. We have both OOIDA and the Teamsters represented on our research advisory committee, or RAC. We have an academic, we have a truck parking, a truck driver training school. We have an association representing truck stop operators. We have a law enforcement representative. It just really is it covers the landscape of trucking, and so that all these different perspectives on what's needed in the trucking industry, where are their research gaps, come together to figure out what are the top 6 to 8 priorities that ATRI should be working on for the year. So it's not just a mega carrier making the decision. It's not just owner operators making the decisions, but it's those folks plus everybody in between, and the state DOT representative. It just really is a great opportunity to get everyone's input from all corners of this country and this industry to figure out what are the research needs for trucking.
Well, and one of the things I think is fantastic with ATRI, it is one of those arrows in our quiver in terms of advocating for all of our members. Having that data, having that research out there is important. A few years ago, the truck parking study, I think that was the #1 study that was requested by the Research Advisory Committee. We took that very seriously here in the Silver State when we were developing our freight plan, which Rebecca got a lot of phone calls from me when we were developing that freight plan, me kind of swearing, pulling my hair out. She was able to kind of help walk me through it, go, okay, Paul, don't go in there throwing grenades. We're gonna get this right. Here's what you do. So, I mean, depending on you for advice on that. But one of the things we were able to get in that state freight plan was how essential truck parking is. And now we are doing a truck parking study here in the Silver State. We're looking at it statewide. And Rebecca, what is ATRI doing as part of that truck parking research that we have going on in Nevada right now?
Well, you're so correct. It was a #1 topic identified by our RAC several years ago, and we've been very active in the truck parking space, from our truck parking diary research, where we quantified and through driver diaries all the little challenges that add up to be very big challenges for drivers on a daily basis, all the things they encounter when they're forced to park on shoulders and ramps because there's not available parking. But we're also very active in a number of state DOT-sponsored truck parking studies, including in Nevada, where we survey drivers to identify in the state specifically where there are issues, where we use our truck GPS data set to figure out where there are shortages of truck parking because we see trucks parked on shoulders and ramps and other undesignated locations. So it's a very comprehensive approach that ATRI brings to these state truck parking studies so that we can really identify some solutions, whether it be real-time information provided to drivers about truck parking availability as they go down the road, whether it be looking for and identifying places to expand public sector provided truck parking, or even working with local municipalities on re-examining their zoning laws so that we can get some private sector, privately run truck stops brought into these places.
Now, Rebecca, I know here in Nevada, it's one of our big issues. It's something that we're working on a lot this year, and we greatly appreciate having your input. We are going to have, it's now part of the Freight Advisory Committee here in Nevada. We are going to have a meeting with them on June 19th, and if that is something that you want to get involved with, please reach out to me, reach out to the Nevada Trucking Association, and we'll help get you involved. And we do want your input, but it is absolutely fantastic to have the input from ATRI on that. Hey, Rebecca, just really quick, do you want to give a quick pitch for ATRI, the operational costs of trucking study, and the other stuff you do before we let our folks go back to their day?
Most certainly, and thanks, Paul, for having me on today. So as a reminder, Paul mentioned this in the beginning, all of ATRI's research is available free of charge on our website. and it's real easy to remember, truckingresearch.org. We just recently changed it. So that's what we do, trucking research, and that's where you can find us online. Online there you'll find the operational cost of trucking data collection form, and I hope you'll go online, download it, and start to fill it in and submit data to be in our study for this year. And go while you're on the website and look for the other studies. Look at our bottleneck list and our other studies that can help you improve your bottom line and your daily operations. And
that is something that we do ask our folks from time to time, on the bottleneck study, where are those areas where you may see issues? For years it's been, the spaghetti bowl down in Vegas. Let's see if I can screw that up again. Where Project Neon is taking place right now up here in Northern Nevada, it's the Spaghetti Bowl, although I do hear a lot of issues on USA Parkway. So those are things that we look at. Luckily, we don't have a road in Nevada that is in that top 100 freight bottlenecks, although when we take a look at it next year with all the construction that's been going on and things like Electric Daisy Carnival and some of those events, maybe we'll matriculate to the top of the list. Let's hope not. And let's hope it's because we're getting better, not because the other places are getting worse. Hey, Rebecca, thank you very much. Very blessed to have you, your team, your knowledge, and really the fact that you answer my phone calls and help me out so we can better serve all of you. Hey, thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for watching and listening. Once again, if you have questions, comments on the podcast, you can email me at pje@nevadatrucking.com. You can find me on Twitter, PJE_NV Trucks. You can find me there. So feel free to reach out, and we will be back next time talking about elections, hours of service, flexibility, and all that stuff that's going to have an impact on you, your drivers, and your company. Thank you very much, and have a great day. And thank you, Rebecca.
Hey, thanks, Paul. That was fun.